All right. Now it takes about a minute or so for everybody to come in, so I have to start pitching myself immediately.
Oh, yeah?
Folks, please subscribe. We get to meet amazing people like Mark Bowden, and last week we had Scott Rouse, so this is like a 1-2 punch completely. We've had Chase Hughes on, and I'm also doing some video interviews. I have the actual guys that the series Narcos covered coming up. I'm interviewing them this weekend. It'll be a video interview. I had Henrik Fexius, who is known as the Darren Brown of Sweden, and that video is actually on the channel right now. So everybody, please subscribe. Check it out. There's so much good stuff coming. You have no idea. But today we have Mark Bowden, Truth Plane. He is.
Here I am.
You are the #1 body language expert in the world, according to Global Gurus. Twice.
Yeah. So just to be really specific about, yes, I think, I don't know, maybe Joe Navarro's been #1 twice. Certainly I have. Certainly that's kind of where that comes from, is I've been consecutively #1, though those rankings kind of,
Sure.
Who knows how they do that ranking, and quite honestly, how accurate it is. But when I'm #1, I think it's very accurate. And when I'm not #1, I don't know whether they've quite got it right. You know.
Oh, I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. And you know what? With Scott Rouse, we opened it by asking a very important question of the time. So I want to use that same question to ask it here. Have you been watching Tiger King?
So people have gone crazy for Tiger King, haven't they? They've kind of gone mad for it. And I started watching that with Tracy, and we got, I don't know, I think we got through an episode, another one, and we were like, what's all the fuss about? Yeah. Obviously it's mad as a box of frogs, because it's people who keep many large wild animals. And I've known a bunch of people who keep big cats, and yeah, they're mad as a box of frogs. What I don't understand is why people are so amazed by it. They're like, yeah, and he's got wild cats and he carries guns, and it's, well, yeah, obviously.
I hope you do with a cat.
Obviously,
I'm like Paul Siegfried and Roy.
and then sometimes I'm going, have you not been to that area of the States? I mean, that's just the opening. That's just an opening gambit for oddness. That's just. If you think that's the cutting edge,
that's the baseline.
That's the baseline. That's not. So we stopped watching it because I've hung around a lot of performers and circus and all of that stuff, and it's that kind of, it's the thing of like, well, he's got big cats and he does magic. Yes, of course, magicians, many of them have animals,
Well,
they're a magician and they've got a twin brother. Yeah, that's how they were over there and then they're over here.
Of course. Well,
they're a magician and they're married to twins. Yes, that's how you cut them in half. So
good point. So in the episode or two that you've seen, did you get to see when they asked the online activist whether or not she killed her husband?
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
Oh, bummer. Okay. Well, yeah. Scott implied that she demonstrated guilty knowledge, and I just wanted to get your take on that.
Sure. So I've not seen it, but if we critically think that, did she kill her husband, or at being asked, does she fantasize about that?
Well, he's gone.
And then herself doing that, and then who knows? I don't know. Okay. Who knows? I'd have to ask her. I'd have to
probably. You have to get that. All right, so folks, I see that we've started to get a few people rolling in. This is all about you guys, so please ask any questions you have, and I will try to keep the ball rolling in the middle. One thing I want to talk about, though, is what we're doing now. We're having to communicate over video.
Mm-hmm.
That I do think adds extra challenges in both projecting and in reading body language. So can we talk about that for a minute? One, you showed a trick about how you can project good spirit, if you will, while you're talking. Can we start with that?
Yeah, sure. What I'm doing in this particular conversation, because it's quite a lot of neural load, because there's not only the image of me that obviously I kind of get obsessed by, because it's a mirror, and my brain keeps going, look, it's you, you're here, and you're there as well. Look, you can see you moving all the time. You in real life, you very rarely have conversations with other people while looking at yourself in the mirror. So this is totally weird for the brain. And then there's you, and you're in really good high definition detail. So at the same time as there being me obsessed with me, there's you over here, and me trying to work out unconsciously or consciously, like what's going on with him, what's his feeling and intention around this. And then there's the realization that I will contact you and the audience through the lens up here. So I only really get good eye contact with you if I'm there. And now I'm feeling all weird because I want to look at me and you, but I've got to look up here to really make a good connection with you and the audience. So it's tricky. And so what I do is I get this little smiley Post-it note here, and I stick it just behind the lens there. So it tries to attract my attention up, and you've got that clear smiley signal there, which when you look at it, it's very difficult for you not to mirror that and start doing that Duchenne smile. There's also, as you were saying earlier, there's this guy here. This guy sent me a little sticker of himself and said, put that up there as well.
Which is brilliant. That's trend jacking with the best of them.
Absolutely. So why not? He's up there. Maybe by the end of all this, I'll have a little family of people up there.
Hopefully you don't have ADD and you'll be
right. But I'm trying to, bring my attention up here so we feel more connected. So you get the sense and your audience get the sense that I'm truly getting eye contact with you, because that will, raise your levels of oxytocin, your sense of optimism around me and this discussion. And also a sense of the fuzzying of boundaries of yourself. So you will feel like you're more like me when I give you eye contact. So the science goes.
This is cool. You're on the receiving end doing this. How would you propose doing it on the presentation end? Like me, I would love to say that I'm brilliant and these questions just flow off the top of my head because of my big brain, but no, I have notes. And so I need to actually kind of look at the notes and then look at your reactions and things like that. So how would you recommend I do that if I'm looking at the camera, I'm drifting off?
Yeah. So do you see how I think you put your notes down here? Yes.
I actually have them right above your face so I can flash and still be looking at you while I'm looking at the notes to try to I don't want to be looking over here going, okay. I'll flip the screen back and forth. You don't see it, but I'll just literally put it right over your face. So I'm looking at the spot. Right.
So, and I'm not going to get into the reality or not of eye accessing cues, but let's just say
NLP, we're here.
let's just say that it's true to say that eyes go into go into various dimensions when they might be having a certain thought. Okay, let's just say that.
Sure.
Well, when your head tilts down, as it seems to when you grab some of your notes, what I start to go is I go, oh, is he concerned? His head just went down. Is he concerned for some reason? That's my instinct around that, and I could countermeasure that with some critical thinking around that. Here's where I put my notes. I put them up there.
Are they physical written notes?
Yeah. Look.
Okay.
Look,
no,
face to face will improve optimism. They're on my light up here. So that when I go and grab a thought or a note, my eyes go off and up, which may well instinctually trigger the audience with more sense of, he's up and he's thinking, he's light.
So maybe I need a footstool. So because that lines me at the camera.
Yeah, okay. Well, you just need some kind of, another way of doing it. Look, this has got one of my son's projects on it, but it's a big, you can see it's a big, can you see it?
Yeah.
It's a big kind of Bristol board, what we call Bristol board thing.
Right.
And I could just pop that on a table behind that, and that would mean that my eyes would be able to get content from all around here, rather than what seems where I'd normally put notes is down here. So look what happens if I do what I normally do in real life with you. So
totally, you go down.
Right. So what the camera does is creates a different optic whereby what you do in real life might not show as what you hoped it would show.
Right.
And so you have to create a different a different setup, which will trigger your audience into feeling like it's a usual reality. So you do something inauthentic,
to be more authentic.
To be more authentic, to give the audience the impression that you're being you.
That makes total sense and cracks me up, because all of that. I hate editing myself in video too, because I'm going, I need to enunciate more because my lips don't move. Now I understand why I had a deaf student one time who had to have an interpreter because he couldn't read my lips.
Right. Well, look, you got a beautiful studio mic there, really close up.
Sure.
And so that's designed to be at a really low level with probably a couple of preamps, so that it picks up kind of zero background noise. But it means that you have to get, as I'm going to do with mine, get super close to it here, and intimate with it. So that gives it that intimate voice. What I've done here is I've got here the kind of mic that you have on a lectern.
Like
and that kind of, it's there we go. It's like you'd have on a lectern. And what that does is it takes a cone of sound here,
and some room noise too, though.
And some room noise too, but it means that I'm talking with more of a conversational in social space voice, rather than my voice that I'd use with you if I was in intimate space with you, which is that one there. Because if we, have the whole conversation like this, it'll be a bit weird after a while. Yeah, exactly. And that's what happens, when you see people get up to the lectern and start doing their speech, they don't realize that it will pick up their social voice. And so what they do is they start doing intimate voice here, and the whole audience falls asleep because it's like they're being read some kind of bedtime story.
Well, good news. We have a question in here.
That's great.
Gavin Stone. Hi, Eric and Mark. Mark, what inspired you to learn about nonverbal communication when you first started out, and where does your inspiration come from today?
Yeah, so I got really interested in movement as a kid, and animal movement, especially aquatic animals. I just loved going to the seaside, British seaside, and getting really cold in the rock pools and getting out starfish and crabs, and I loved their movement. I also loved the movement of water as well, and light on water. So I started getting really obsessed with movement out of
Are you a
thinking
dancer?
about this. I studied performing arts. So initially, I got a degree in dance and drama and music. But my obsession is with movement. My obsession is with movement and how movement can trigger patterns of thought or perception in people, probably more importantly. So I was interested in how things move. And so that got me obviously into Darwin. Obviously, Darwin is one of the the first writer on body language. It starts with Darwin, and then it goes to some French biologists as well at the time, and Dutch and Duchenne, and then you kind of get to Desmond Morris. And Desmond Morris put out a book, Naked Ape, and people watching I think for many of us, I think Joe Navarro talks about it a lot, always going back to Desmond Morris's work around looking at human behavior from that kind of animal lens and that evolutionary lens. So I got into it through that and through the idea of influence and persuasion around how can you order movement and order the visual image, especially the moving visual image, in a way that you can start to predict what humans will do around that moving imagery. I don't know whether that makes any sense, but
sure. What I find fascinating is that you come from the arts, whereas many of the body language people essentially come from law enforcement.
Yeah, so you meet a lot of those, but then Scott Rouse has a production background, and
true.
When you talk to Joe Navarro, he's the FBI, and so you'd kind of go, okay, so bureaucrat, federal bureaucrat, but ultimately, all of these people, Vanessa Van Edwards, Janine Driver, all of them are obsessed with people. They're obsessed with humans. They're interested in how humans get along with each other and how you can create less friction around that. So it's kind of interesting where people have come from, but ultimately it's more interesting for me where they are.
Oh, sure.
Because all the people that I really enjoy in that area, Alan and Barbara Pease as well, all they're interested in is how people get along. That's all. The background is not, it's maybe the background may have given them an interesting view or some insights or some techniques or some experiences that other people have got, but everybody's in the same position of just going, well, how would we make this easier? This is quite difficult getting along. Like, can we make this a bit easier?
Yeah, Henrik Fexius actually talked about that. He got into it because he suffered very much as a kid socially. And he was like, how do I get to talk to all these other people and actually get to hang out in the crowd?
Wow. Welcome to the world of magicians.
Not unusual.
Not unusual. That's not like that. That's, and then they start collecting tigers.
Okay. Okay, well,
starts at doves.
And Chase lives near me.
Rabbits.
Oh boy.
then there's tigers. So so look, there will be some, with all of this, there's some, you tend to see some patterns. But again, I'm not so interested in where people have come from. What interests me is where they are right now and what they're wanting to do with that, what they're interested in. And it comes down to me about, are they being helpful? Is what they're doing helpful? Is it helping anybody? Because some of it is interesting, but so what? Like, oh, that's really interesting, but what can I do with that? What can I do with that today that would make my life easier? Because it's a hard day today. So can I make it easier? That's what I'm interested in.
Do you, and Scott brought this up too, do you hang out with other body language people?
Yeah, as much as possible. It's tricky because there aren't many of us. So we're a rarish breed, and we're a little bit scattered. And so it's not like we all live in one town. It's not like, obviously Scott's in Nashville, but it's not like most of us are in, there's no capital of the body language world. So yeah, sometimes we, by accident or by arrangement, we can get together. We've got some great, you, Eric, have probably got more of us together than in a collection. You're like a collector. You're like it's going to start with you. It's going to start with body language experts, and then it's going to go to big cats.
Oh,
it's gonna.
Oh, my cats are big enough. I have a 25-pound cat already. Okay. He's big enough.
Yeah, see, you're already there.
Yeah, we're done though.
Already there.
Finishes with them.
But yeah, we like to. I know we enjoy it when we bump into each other or meet up. It's just great fun. Yeah.
What do you guys do when you're together? Do you like Scott and just sit there looking at people at other tables and go, oh, let me see, it's their first date and they're this far in the meal and what's going to happen?
Oh, last time it's just nice hanging out and chatting and just, being with, in many cases, people who you really enjoy their work, or, they've been an inspiration to you, or they've really helped with the way you're thinking. For me, that's what I really enjoy.
Sure.
I'm not a massive sit and watch people and go, oh, I think this is happening and this is, again, that's interesting. But the real help that I try and give people is what they would do in order to influence and persuade, what they would do to trigger other behaviors in others. I'm not saying watching people is super interesting. It's just not where my obsession goes. And my obsession is also how to try and think differently about this. So what I love to do is sit down with Scott or Chase or Joe, or talk to Alan or Janine, or and go, what are you thinking about this? And have some kind of conversation with them. That's what I like.
What have you found out lately that you had wrong?
What have I found out lately that I've had wrong? I'm stuck for anything. I'm stuck that I've had wrong.
Or that you have paused even about. I know Scott brought up there is some question whether mirroring is actually as strong or apparent. There are some new studies out, things like that. I just was curious because, especially when you talk to other experts, they may point things out to you that you don't see, or vice versa.
I'm pretty circumspect, so I'm trying. So I'm most of the time, I don't know. Part of my ability is to be able to go. People go, well, what's this and what's this? I don't know. We'd have to find out. Do you want to find out? How valuable is it? Part of it is part of the value that I bring is the thinking around it. Is to cause people to go, that would be interesting to find out. It's the thing of what you want to know, is the woman in the video lying about killing her? It's I don't know. Why do you want to know? What's it to you? That's what's interesting. Is what if you knew? How would that make your life any better or easier, or why do you want to know? So I would kind of go what are you trying to avoid? Looking at that, what are you avoiding? Why spend your time trying to work out, is the woman who you're worried somebody's lying, but you've projected that onto a woman that you'll never meet, most likely, and will have no effect on you. So who is she for you? Who is the liar in your life that you're actually worried about? So that's what interests me. That's what really interests me. Who is she being for you that causes you to go, if only I knew she was that's what interests me. So I spend a lot of my time going, I just don't know. People say, look at this image, look at this film, what's happening here? And it's why do you want to know? Why is this important to you? And if we can find what really matters about this, then we could think about looking at, the truth and lies of what's going on.
I always thought you liked to play. That's just the impression that I've always gotten from you, is that you're really, really playful, and you really seem to project more than read, or at least you're not talking about your reading. And I don't know if you're mirroring or what you're doing, but in general, you're very much larger than life. Many of the other ones, they're reading and they're kind of I mean, Scott Rouse is definitely what's that? And you're kind of playing and kind of projecting, which makes you an interesting combination. Is that deliberate or just natural?
Well, I'm trying to educate. So if you're an educator, you've got to be the most interesting thing in the room, because there's something else to do. There's always the opportunity not to learn. There's always the opportunity not to change. Not changing is so much easier than changing. Not knowing something new is so much easier than knowing something new. And so if you want to help people and their lives have a little less friction in it when it comes to the human relationships or the ones that are really important, they're maybe going to have to learn something, and you're going to help educate them, and therefore you've got to be interesting. So I'm trying to be helpful and interesting. Now, if you lived with me, you would not get this, because this would be super annoying 24/7.
Maybe a little.
This would be unlivable. Oh man, you'd be after 2 hours, can you shut the hell up?
Mark, have you taken your medication today?
Right, exactly. Not nearly enough of it. So this is my job. So welcome to work. It has some performance elements to it. Certainly, it has some performance elements to it. But the reason it has those performance elements is not for the sake of performance. It's not for the sake of, hey, look at me. It's for the sake of, I want to help you change. I want to help stuff get easier for you. And I know you will try and push back at me for that help. So I've got to engage you and take you on this trickier journey. So that's what you get.
And I think I've asked this of you and Tracy before, but what is it that made you shift from being a pure performer? Because you very much are from the performance world.
Yeah.
And now you seem to be almost trying not to and trying to strictly educate using performance elements, but you seem to be very, very focused on that. Like you're not planning to open a play next week.
Oh, no chance.
What caused that shift?
It wouldn't be useful because it wouldn't be helpful. It wouldn't help. It's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help anybody. I gave all the help I could that way. Did it? Gave all the help I could.
So you got bored of it, essentially.
No. It's. I would suggest, since I've been focused on trying to help people through this medium, through educating people about human behavior and body language, I've had more effect than with doing it through film or TV or theater or whatever stunt we would put on in order to engage people and change them. I would still say I would still call myself an artist because ultimately what I'm trying to do is remind people that they're alive, and that for me is the function of art, to remind people that they're alive. And the way I'm trying to remind them they're alive is to remind them that they have a physical body in a physical world, and it has a physical effect on others, and that has a psychological effect on others, which again, there's a physical effect, but I'm trying to remind them of the physical world that they're in, rather than the esoteric or spiritual or thought world that they might be in. But I'm not doing that through making a film or a TV show or performing other people's work. I'm just doing my own.
So this fulfills you.
No, I would rather not. If I could not do this, then I would. I've no need to. I've no need to. Like, no need to be here. Like, this is great, Eric. But if I could avoid this, I would. Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah. If I could avoid it, I absolutely would. If I could avoid going in front of large audiences or making videos or whatever, I would. But this is the best way to get the help to other people. So I do it. If there was another way that was easier, I would do that. It was easier and as effective or more effective, I would do that. At the moment, educating people through live talks and making videos and doing interviews like this, and making money at the same time. So, I can have family and nice place to live and certain elements of comfort. This is the way to do it. So I do this.
Well, let's visit that a little, because I'm guessing your public performances are down at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they are down in terms of showing up live in front of human beings, which is a great way to learn this stuff. Simply because people have heard about body language, they've thought about it a bit, and they've maybe read a few books or one or none, or certainly tapped on some internet stuff and got some ideas from that. But when they see somebody who has an expertise in being able to educate them about it and do it live in a room, and they suddenly get hit by the feelings that I'm able to trigger in them live, they suddenly go, wow, that's really powerful. That's really powerful. He can change my feelings about the same thing, the same numbers or the same object or product or service or idea. He can change my perception of it simply by the body language that he's putting around it, and change it radically and instantly. And it doesn't happen in the clever part of my head. It's happening in my instinct. And so I know what he's doing, but I can't countermeasure it because it's happening to my instinct. So once they get that, suddenly they're reminded that they're alive. Suddenly they wake up. They go, whoa, look, I can do that. I've got all the stuff that he's got. He just showed me something super simple. I can do that or not do it. It's my choice. It's my choice now to influence and persuade others into a more positive mindset or negative mindset. I don't have to do it by accident. Some of my life now doesn't have to be an accident. I can do it on purpose. So that's down right now. Now, here's what's left. Is I'm now doing this, which is, and I'm doing this because it's helpful. I'm doing now webinars live with people to go, look, you're now digitally contacting, you're leading your teams, you're influencing and persuading people because you want to sell or you want to help them, and you're doing it via this medium, and this medium is live, but it plays all kinds of tricks on your mind, and it's tough, and the neural load is massive on it. So here's the tools and techniques to do this really well. So you can learn the aesthetic of this, not the anesthetic of it. Because if you don't know the aesthetic of this, it doesn't remind you that you're alive. You understand the anesthetic of it. It sends you to sleep. This is a medium that will switch you off and remind you that you're asleep if it can. So once you learn the aesthetic of this, you become alive again. So that's what I'm doing.
And your film background has to really help, because you already know about cheating and things.
No, I know the aesthetic. Like, film isn't new. Lumiere brothers came up with it a long time ago. So once the major population is now suddenly everybody's going, wow, Zoom. Like I can have. What has to happen for innovation to catch on? You usually have to have like a 10 times profitability on how much it's costing to do it. The current health crisis has instantly knocked us into everybody using this innovation, whereas a few of us, even in business, were just using this. Sure. Yeah, you're one of them. Like you're early to this. You've been doing this a long time, and now suddenly everybody's going, I could start broadcasting on it. It's like, yeah. So this has been going on a while, and just so you know, people were doing moving pictures right back in the days of the Lumiere brothers, and they were working out how this works and how this affects human beings. Yeah, Lenny Riefenstahl worked out how do we make a film that will get a mass movement going. I mean, it's like we're not new to the game on this, but most people on the planet are. And it wouldn't take long for you to catch up. You just need to listen to some experts who've really studied this. So it's not really, I wouldn't say, look, you've got a performance background, and there's so many people with a performance background.
Sure,
they don't know what I know. because they hadn't thought about it. They're not concerned about it. They wanted to be on stage or in front of a camera, or that wasn't my thing. I wanted to influence and persuade people. I was interested in how to trigger them with a set response, not can I be on stage and people go, wow, Mark, you were great. I have no concern for that whatsoever. What I'm interested in is, were you great? Did you have a great time? Have you got something out of this? So yeah, my performance background, I think there are lots of, like, if you need somebody with a performance background, there's plenty out there. They haven't got any work at the moment. So
yeah, everybody's at home.
Yeah, everybody's at home.
I'm wondering
them. They won't know what I know.
I'm curious though, your thoughts, because I see this as possibly having a permanent effect on keynotes and conferences. I could be wrong, but it takes about a month of repeated exposure to become a habit. And I see a lot of things that would be a normal habit right now in the spring that suddenly people can't do, and they may be establishing new habits.
Yeah. So you'd think that would happen, but then here's what's actually going to happen. So we set up this habit of, all talks, all keynotes are now going to be done like this. Great. So we've set up this habit. Then here's what happens. Somebody with a product or a service or an idea, they go, you know what? I'm going to get everybody together in a live group. And what happens? They sell so much more. They engage their audience so much more. They get a movement going that everybody on video can't get off the ground. And suddenly everybody realizes, oh yeah, human beings have been getting together face to face in social groups for millennia. And there's a reason, and there is no technology that will not replace it, but can compete with it. Okay. Now, if it so happens that from now, this point on, the human race are never going to be able to get face to face ever again, other than in our small family units, if that's an actual fact, then live will not happen, and therefore there is no competition for this.
True.
But just add in the competition, live will wipe the floor with this. It's like, you imagine this, right? Your audience, how they're seeing this now. You imagine this in the room with you right now. You imagine this actually leaning over and touching you right now, touching the side of your shoulder.
Well, not today.
Yeah? And just going, it's going to be okay. Look, I can say to you, you know what's going to be okay? Imagine me live, reaching over, gently touching with the palm of my hand the side of your shoulder and going, you know what's going to be okay. Who wins? I win. The live version of me wins every time. And I will, once it's back again, I'm going live.
Well, I hope you do.
Yeah.
I mean, I missed you last time you came to town here.
Yeah. What town are you in?
I live in Hampton, but I live in the same area as Chase.
Oh, okay. Well, look, next time.
Yeah, definitely. You got something.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, now let's go ahead and look at that, because you just said it's going to be okay and all that. And I think in the current circumstances, what can we do, or how can we express or hold ourselves to make people around us feel calm? Because there is a certain level of nervousness being experienced by a good majority of people. I'm not going to say everybody or that, but it is kind of uncertain times. We really don't know what is going to happen, what's going on. Is it safe? Is it not? How can we be helpful?
Yeah, really good question. How can we be helpful? Because I can't tell you to be calm, and I can't, all I can do, and I think the best thing and most helpful thing that people can do is just say, how you doing? Tell me about it. How are you doing? Yeah, and listen. And then accept how they're doing. Because it's very easy if I say to you, look, how are you doing? And you start telling me, it's like, whatever it is, I'm a little anxious about this or this. It's very easy for me to pick up on that anxiety mirror that anxiety, not like the feeling that it gives me, and then say to you, you know what, Eric, just calm down, don't worry. And why am I saying that? Because I can't handle mirroring you. I can't handle your pain. It's too painful for me. So what I've got to be able to do is say, hey, how are you doing? Listen to that and accept that, even though and sit in the sometimes in the pain of me watching your struggle.
How do you work through that yourself to maintain the pain that you've inherited?
Sure, you just go, listen, just nod, just accept, just stay open. You do the body language of acceptance. You have a mantra in your head trying to do the acceptance. So I will say things in my head like, okay, that's right. Yes, exactly. And I may even say them back to you. Yeah, I'll say, okay, that's right. Yeah, exactly. So instead of going, nah, just no. So I saw some stuff on the news the other day. It was saying that wasn't the case. That it wasn't, no. And
probably not helpful.
that might be accurate from my point of view, because maybe the news item was accurate. I don't know. Made me feel better. And now, because you're telling me about your struggle, your pain, your anxiety, it's triggering it in me, and I don't like that. So I want to shut that down, and I'll shut that down by trying to be helpful, telling you it's going to be okay, rather than listening to you saying you're worried that it isn't going to be okay. And me going, I totally get that. I totally get it. It's very worrying for you right now. Absolutely get that.
Is that a good way?
That's what. Sorry, say that again.
I was going to say, I was just thinking, Henrik Fexius, we were talking about that a little bit too. He calls it I guess you call it a verbal Aikido after a fashion, but all the way up to somebody being angry or enraged to do the same kind of reaction. Like if I were you, I'd totally feel that same way.
No, so it's not that. It's not that pattern. No.
Okay.
No, it isn't that pattern. That pattern is a kind of a slight. It's one of Diltz's sleight of mouths, which sounds like something that it isn't. What I'm actually saying is, I accept you.
Okay.
I accept the fee. I don't have to have them. I don't have them. I can disagree. I can go, I totally get what you're saying there. I disagree. Yeah. So, but what you hear first of all is me dealing with, I've got to accept where you're at right now. Yeah. So from my point of view, it is different from what you were saying before, which is if I were you.
Right. Well, I like the nuance. That was kind of as you put it, like a last resort, but like if somebody's really upset, and I worry and anger aren't exactly the same thing necessarily. So, I could have taken it a little bit too far over, but I like to tie things together and try to look into nuance and how are things different or how are they the same. So that was kind of like a way of, I like sleight of mouth. That's a cool term, but a way of demonstrating understanding, especially if it's somebody who you absolutely cannot relate to in any way. I've had negotiators on who are, they're talking to a predator, for example. Well, it's very difficult to relate to a predator for most of us.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but what you can do is accept what they're saying. But I don't need to relate to that. So I can accept, you can accept that they are angry with a group because that group or that person has disrespected them. I can accept that is, it's not the way I would have gone, but I accept that's the way that you've gone. So it does. So what we're trying to do here is differentiate between emotional empathy and cognitive empathy. In emotional empathy, I feel the things that you feel.
Okay.
And what some of those sleights of mouths are trying to do is pretend that you feel the things that they feel. So if I were you, I would have felt angry as well.
Mm-hmm.
What you're trying to do is trick the person into going, I'm feeling angry right now. Now, the issue with that is you just did that sleight of mouth on yourself.
Well, in fairness, it's actually true, though. If you literally were that other person, you would be there.
Oh, I understand the sleight of mouth there. I understand the sleight of, I understand the sleight of, just as if I were a dog, I would bark.
Right.
I understand. Totally get it. but understand it's tricky enough that you could trick yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. So you would potentially, you have an option, you have a stronger possibility there of dropping into emotional empathy, which may not be useful. Yeah. So if I were you, I'd be angry right now as well. Well, you just did an embedded instruction on yourself. Angry. I'm angry right now. You've also probably increased their anger and escalated that. And when they see that flash of anger when you say, if I was you, I'd be angry right now. When they see that, they'll escalate that as well. So now, and that may be what you're trying to do or not what you're trying to do, but you better be in control of that. You better know what you're doing. What I'm talking about here is, so there's emotional empathy and there's cognitive empathy. And cognitive empathy is when you accept the emotion, the feeling, the intention that somebody has, but you do not have it yourself. In fact, you can have the contrary. Or you can have a cognitive overview of the whole situation, but you're not going to enter into the feeling. And this often works when people are in pain, because we often, when somebody's in pain, one of the things we do as well, or stress, or whatever, anxiety, we try and out pain, out anxiety, out stress them. So they're like, oh, I'm really worried about X. Yeah, no, I am as well. Because I got really worried yesterday. Blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, well, yeah, because I got worried today, and it was, yeah, but I got worried at 7.5. Yeah, but I got worried at an 8. Yeah, but it's not as bad as last year because I worried at a 9 last year. And yeah, but I'm getting worried at 10 right now. Oh, I'm at 11. It's like suddenly there's a competition for who can be most emotionally engaged, and that can be really fun for the body and the mind, but it's not sometimes that helpful. Anyway, I hope that makes the differentiation between cognitive and emotional work. So say that again.
Sounds a little like Paul Bloom's work.
Tell me about it. I don't know Paul Bloom.
He wrote the book Against Empathy, and essentially it's how empathy is a blind spot. And his premise is, for example, if you really want people to feel bad, show one little girl starving. If you show 1,000 people starving, it's a statistic. People just don't feel it. But we are wired to where we'll suddenly care more about that one kid versus like an entire village.
Or actually, if you want to raise the most money, a starving puppy would work better.
Well, sure.
They show a kid. It's not my kid.
And I think he just
lovely.
I think he described kind of cognitive empathy. I think he just calls sympathy. Like that's a step away. You can.
So technically speaking, in sympathy would denote a similar set of behaviors.
Okay.
Whereas in empathy, a similar set of feelings.
Okay.
To be super technical.
Perfect. And good news.
Then you got a nerd on the line.
Huh?
Then you got a nerd on the line.
Oh, hey, I'm thrilled to have nerds on the line. By the way, that's something I find in common with at least Scott and Chase, and I'm going to say you probably, is you're all body language nerds.
Oh yeah. That's what I first loved about Scott. So we were started writing Truth and Lies, and I'd seen Scott's TED talk, TEDx talk a while back, and so I, sent a message to him, going, would you write? I love your talk, and would you, write a little bit of a chapter for me, a little bit of an insert for me, because I want to get, lots of people involved in this. and he came back and he was, kind of shooting me lots of papers and stuff. I was like, where the hell did you get this one from? He's like, it's part of the collection, and you should look at this. And I went, wow, this guy's like totally off the charts. And then I said, well, would you be an expert reader, editor on this? He was like, yeah, fantastic. So he's super nerdy. Doesn't look like it or act like it, but he's got some cellar full of documents somewhere. He's like
Chase Hughes.
He's probably got big cats as well. Probably got big cats.
Well, Chase Hughes is as bad or worse. I mean,
Chase Hughes definitely has big cats. Definitely.
I'm sure of it, because I mean he doesn't go just find G.L. Esterbrook's books. He goes and gets rights to dig through the guy's notes. Yes, yeah. I was telling him recently that one of the first videos I saw of him, because he'd not got a huge amount online, and was that, and I was like, yeah, this guy's totally gone big cat. He's gone. This is the new meme, big cat. You should get T-shirts going big cat.
turned up at a library, and he's. What did he say? He said, I shifted through, X amount of cubic feet of documents. I was like, what? Why would they? Why?
It's a new measurement.
Cubic feet. I maybe looked through a few pages of something. He's like, I'm going through cubic feet of document. Yes. Like, good luck, mate. Good luck. Fill your boots.
My goodness, we finally have another question from the audience.
Yeah. Okay.
I've studied, this is Gavin Stone. I've studied body language and influence on and off for years and love it. When it comes to influence, Chase Hughes seems to favor authority. Do you think other tools could be as powerful, such as infatuation?
Yeah, I do. In fact, I was talking to Chase about this recently, because I like that he's kind of honed in on authority, and he's gone, and he's picked that. Now, is that accurate? Is authority the most important one? I frankly don't know, and I don't really care. What's useful is he's created a model that gives us somewhere to start. Because if we don't have somewhere to start, if we don't say start with authority or infatuation, or I don't care where you start, but you want to start somewhere so you can explore with some kind of focus, and then come back to Chase and go, Chase, you got it all wrong. It is an authority. It's this or it's that. But without starting somewhere with some focus, you will be lost, because there is so much that you can do. The key is what will give you, what I'm interested in is the economics. What will give you the most result for the smallest amount of effort?
I think that's where he was going. I think that's where Chase
absolutely.
Is going.
So Chase is going, I think it's this. And if you hear him talk about it, it's a very, very compelling argument for why. And the way he explained it to me was the Milgram experiment, going, look, if you can get a whole bunch of students to effectively, get close to, the idea of killing somebody based on a clipboard and a white coat, there's got to be something in it. I went, oh yeah, it's pretty compelling. It's a compelling idea. And so that's in my view, that's where he started with that. And he's got some great techniques around that. And that's the model he's built. And that's what, for my mind, that's what puts him in the rank of experts that I'm really interested in, because he's got a model, he's got an idea, and he's willing to go, there it is, come at it. So he's not going to, if you say to him, I got some other ideas, he's going to listen. So long as you, as long as you go, here's why. Like, he's not necessarily going to die on that hill, but he's got a hill. He's got a hill, which is more than most people have got.
True. I'm usually digging a hole. But what do you think of Cialdini's seventh principle? Because he had the 6 psychological principles if we're getting into influence. And of recent years, he's come out with the 7th, which is unity. And I think there's some real power in that one.
Yeah. So what do I think of it? Well, for me, as a model, it was always too big a model, because I can't remember all of them. So, because when you go, what's his seventh? I'm like, I can't even remember 1, 2, 3. You know, like.
Hey, I was pulling out my notes.
But at least Trace has one with what it's like authority. So okay, I can remember that. Now I've got a way to think. You know, his look. I've got no problem with his. You know, his you know, Influence is a great book. Fantastic book. Now, how helpful is it as a model? I found it interesting, but it's tough to initiate kind of on the spot help with that full model. You know, I kind of go, can we get it down to 3, and then tell me which one is most important? Because I'm in the field. So, right. You know, so he's added a 7th called what did you say?
Unity, and essentially it is people who are your kin. And a good example of Brian Ahern, his father was a Marine in Vietnam. And as he put it, when his father sees another Marine from that period, his family's irrelevant. There's such a strong affiliation. And I can see that in a lot of ways, be it a hobby, be it whatever, but you know, people have been through thick and thin or perceive it as such, even though they've never met each other, their circumstances are so locked in with each other. I feel like it could be on the same level of authority or even more so.
Yeah. So from your description there, we're talking. Let me expand that out and give you a model which is way too big. But
okay, a big model.
It's
You're solving everything in this.
So here's how we bond together: values, beliefs, rituals, customs, goals, concerns, and signals. I'll do it again: values, beliefs, rituals, customs, goals, concerns, and signals. That's the information that comes from that tells me if I'm more likely to survive with you or with that one over there. Because if I know we hold the same values, beliefs, custom signals, goals, concerns, if I know we hold...
You have 6 too many. You're rattling this off. There's more than 6 years.
Yeah, oh, of course. It's a very, very accurate description of how we get together in groups, but it's not very helpful because you can't remember it. So I'm going to give you one: values. Values are what we think is most important. Yeah, it's how we value stuff. Something is more important than others. My groups that I'm affiliated with, I hang around mainly with people who think that education is of value. There are people on the planet who don't think education is valuable. Yeah, I happen to think it's probably one of the, if not the most valuable thing. I educate people myself. I come from a family of educators. I live with educators. I spend lots of money on education. So if I see signals from you that tell me you value education, my instinct instantly goes, I'm going to be okay with you. Now that could be true or false. That's gonna, but my instinct has to make a judgment, and so I'm looking out for people who value what I value. There are things that you will do consciously and unconsciously that will signal to me your values, beliefs, rituals, customs, goals, concerns, and signals.
I'm gonna have to write that down later.
Yeah. Now, So I've worked with a few Marines in my time. They're extraordinary bunch.
Oh yeah, so
one of the signals that I always would pick up was and you can tell I'm not a Marine because I don't have those creases in the shirt. You know, and they hadn't been in the Corps for a long time, but they still wore those super like box fresh. Yeah. My guess is, though I never interviewed any of them, is that they could see that coming. They can see that coming at a distance.
Sure.
Yeah. And so they know that one coming at me, that one there, that's a good one. We're going to be okay. Yeah. We're going to be okay. That one coming there is a scruffy old mess. We're not gonna...
And he's kind of prancing. I don't know what about him.
So yeah, to that 7th element there, I don't dispute that, and again, what's he called it again?
Unity.
Okay. Has he got a book out called Unity or something?
No, it's
Or
part of Persuasion. He came out with it, but it's
okay.
like I forget. There's like what's me is we is we. I don't know. I have to look.
Sure. Yeah, tricky,
I
isn't it? So my guess is, it's like adding another thing, keeping the content going, but ultimately what it's describing is something that we've known for a long, long time, which is we are social mammals.
well, all of it. I mean, one of these can roll three. I think Unity probably makes up 3 or 4 of the
Sure.
principles, and that's probably why it's stronger. A bit of
Yeah.
liking, a bit of reciprocation's automatic with the Unity.
Yeah.
Social
Yeah.
proof, because if he's like you, what they like, you're going to want to like, because people you like anyway. So it just goes on from there.
Sure. What interests me about it is what do we have to see that would trigger us to know there is going to be unity? So I would know beforehand, before I've even spoken to that person, I've already started a narrative that says I'm safer with this person than I am with my own family. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. And because if I knew that for an individual, if I knew what was the signal I'd have to play to them to get that response, that would be powerful.
It's an interesting thing to consider. Now, to wrap things up, because we're on the hour, I think that Scott Rouse provided a mic drop here.
Scott, here we go.
I'm always afraid Chase will dig up Milton Erickson, crush up part of his skull, and snort it. And with that note, folks,
I got an image in my head right now of exactly that diabolical piece of necromancy.
They have already done it, but folks, this is the kind of people we have on this show. So please subscribe. There's more to come. Mark, thank you so much for coming on.
Great fun. Thanks for having me. Thanks for collecting.
Always.